For the past 4 years, I've created and co-hosted a podcast called The Premier Pod, which focuses in on the Premier League. I started the podcast when I was a junior in college, and in this video, I wanted to share with you 3 ways how the podcast has changed my life. First, the podcast has greatly increased my public speaking skills. The way the podcast works, or the way I structure it with my co-host, is that we'll have a general outline of how we want the podcast to go. So we'll have a Google Doc sheet, and we'll just have general bullet points on what we want to hit. And then from there, we're basically given the freedom to kind of riff off each other and start going and start exploring different talking points. In the beginning, it was a bit difficult to have a carry on a conversation for 40 plus minutes, but the more times I did it, when I got into 20 plus episodes, 30 plus episodes, or even 40 plus episodes, I started getting to the habit with me and my co-host where we could legit have maybe 3 or 2 bullet points for the entire outline, and we could sit there and talk about those 3 bullet points, or even go off and riff off each other's topics for at least an hour or even greater than that. The second way it's greatly improved my life is that it's a great conversation starter. And by conversation starter, I don't mean just at a local hangout when you're just meeting up with friends, but also a great conversation starter when you are applying for internships in college or starting to apply for jobs. It is a great way to kind of get the ball rolling. I know a lot of times when I was applying for jobs, especially since I'm in the sports media field, a lot of times when my internship interviews, I would get asked about the podcast. And one of the first questions they would ask is just tell me a little bit more about the podcast and why you started it, what's the story behind it. And it was so easy just to list out the story on why I wanted to start it, and also the reasons why I can continue to do it, and the process of how I create the show, how I edit the show, how I publish the show. And what's really cool about that is when you are talking about something like that, is that it shows that you are willing to start things on your own. You're willing to explore topics that you're interested in, but it also, because it's something that you are passionate about and it's something you talk about on the daily, that passion and that, that drive that you have for it just naturally comes out in your voice. And it's a great way to just show employers that, hey, this is what I do, this is what I've been doing, and it's just a phenomenal way to get the ball rolling when you're starting conversations. The last benefit is that the podcast has allowed me and given me like the perfect excuse to reach out to professionals in my industry. Because I'm working in sports media and because I'm in the journalistic media realm of the job market, I've been allowed to, basically given that freedom with the podcast, to reach out to professionals in the sports media industry and people that are specifically covering soccer in the Premier League, or people that cover soccer in a whole. The way I would reach out to them is just find their email or go on Twitter and reach out to them to their Twitter DMs. And more often than not, I would get a response saying that, hey, I'd love to hop on, or hey, I can't hop on, but I'd love to hear more about your podcast and everything that you're doing there. And just having the podcast, even though I could have reached out to these people without having the podcast just kind of gave me that extra bit of legitimacy behind my name. Whatever your podcast topic is about, whether it's self-help, personal development, cooking, anything that you can think of, psychology, personal finance or anything, having that podcast will give you that freedom and also that legitimacy behind your name to go out and reach out to those professionals through Twitter DMs or emails and just send them a pitch and ask them if they want to be on the show. Those are the 3 ways that having my podcast, The Premier Pod, has changed my life. I am a big proponent that if you have anything you're passionate about, any topic or anything that you enjoy, whether it be from comics or anything, I would definitely recommend that you go ahead and giving podcasting a shout. It's not a guaranteed way of increasing your followers or getting a big audience, but it is a great way just to develop your public speaking skills, give you a chance to reach out to people that you know, and also just a good conversation starter. So if you have any type of passion in any of those topics or any topic in general, I definitely recommend checking out on how to learn and how to start a podcast. Thanks again for watching. Bye.